Okay, now it's recording. So this is from our 2023 Building Climate Disasters, and it's showing that we totaled several billion. I can show you guys another slide where year it is several $billion that is for these disasters. So what are we talking about when we say just different weather hazards? This is actually from the 2022. I couldn't get the 2023 up yet. However, what do most of you guys think when you think weather related hazards? What do you think is the number one? What is the first thing that comes to your mind? Flooding.
Tornadoes.
Hurricane.
Lightning.
Hurricane.
I heard a lot of that. Surprisingly, the number one, and it will almost always be the number one, and I know this part of me, heat. Heat is the number one killer, and it's been that way since I believe it started. And I'll list some of these off. This one is flooding. So flooding is flooding, and then hurricane is another one that's really high. This is lightning. Lightning surprisingly is not as high as most of the other hazards. And then we have clouds over. This is flooding, lightning, tornadoes, hurricanes, heat, winter weather, winter weather like a storm, different, just cold, isolated from this winter storm. This one is wind, and then rainfalls. So I'll talk about heat and cold. A lot of people, maybe more now than they did before, are starting to pay attention more to heat. Why is that? What did we have yesterday? Even in, or not yesterday, last year, even in Jefferson County, specifically Beaumont, had their number one hottest year. And I'll show you guys that a number one hottest year since records begun. And I'll show you guys that near the end. And it's not heat necessarily by itself that can be the major cause. It's heat and humidity, and that is what causes the danger of heat. When it comes to cold, it's cold and wind, because who has heard of wind chill? Surprisingly, not as many as I thought. So it's the wind chill that is the threat. And with heat, you see, who has heard of something called like the feel like temperature? So a couple of people. It's what it feels like. So it may be only, what, 90 degrees. However, if you have 90 degrees with dew points in the 70s, it feels significantly hotter than it actually is. When it comes to thunderstorms, and you'll see I kind of have all of these kind of built together. Some of the hazards you have in thunderstorms are flooding, flash flooding, lightning, tornadoes, and strong winds. When we issue a thunderstorm warning, we are issuing more for 1, 2,
Coffee, latte, wine.
or large hail.
I'm good.
So we'll issue a flash flood warning if we see rain falling over a certain area for an extended amount of time and we see water coming up. We'll issue if we see a tornado. Absolutely, you'll see the National Weather Service has issued a tornado warning. If we have strong winds that we think, because strong winds are as dangerous too, or even more dangerous. A lot of people like to concentrate on, hey, like if it's not a tornado, it's not that bad, right? Strong winds, you can have 80, 90, 100 mile per hour straight line damaging winds that can easily destroy property or.
I'm sorry, I'm grabbing my stuff.
And then large hail. I'm pretty sure
You'll take care of the house.
Large hail, yes.
Okay.
All our viewers are
Thank
asking
you.
you to please speak into the mic. It's right there.
We're good.
Yes, ma'am.
Here, I'll just go ahead and take this one with me. Can they hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna continue on this one, and then from thunderstorms, I'm gonna go. So you can. Everything that I mentioned before, you can see in a hurricane. However, I just changed it up a little bit to add storm surge. So storm surge is another hazard that you can see with hurricanes. And I will show a little bit more about that. However, storm surge is when you have an abnormal amount of seawater that is moving into, the land. So it's a little hard to see, but the little black star is kind of where we are. It was showing one, category 1. This is going to be a category 2 coming up, category 3. Well, category 4, you already see that we're looking at over 9 feet. So the red is greater than 9 feet. And then that's a 5. We're seeing it all over parts of not only Jefferson County, but getting into Orange and sorry, my brain is full of the Orange and Hardin. And this kind of just shows it a little bit better. Again, we're about where that star is. And this is a category 1 where we're seeing about less than 3 feet start to pull in. We're seeing greater than 3 feet along the north side of Beaumont, north and east side of Beaumont. You're seeing greater than 6 feet, and then some spots that will see greater than 9 feet at a category 3. And of course, you're seeing it go a bit higher and higher with that greater than 9 feet and more for 4 and 5. So I did want to go over a couple of hurricanes that have hurricanes and just tropical systems in general that have gone through the area. This is Ike, and I'll let that one play through. But as Ike started to approach, you saw multiple rain bands actually start to move into the area. So not only did you get a little bit of flooding with that, you got storm surge. So this was actually a storm surge map that was made, I believe, by my coworker Jonathan Brazil, sitting back there, made this map, and you can see storm surge. And so some of these gauges actually stopped, or one of the gauges actually stopped working. Sabine Pass, and I know it's a little bit hard to see, it's saying 12.54 feet. Port Arthur at 11.79, and Rainbow Bridge at 9.29 feet of storm surge. And which one? I believe one of these stopped working. Yeah, so the Rainbow Bridge one actually stopped working. So more than likely, we've got much higher storm surge there than the number actually shows. And this is some of Ike's aftermath for storm surge and just heavy rain, where you're seeing houses flood, roads flooded. You saw this is actually on Lamar, so just part of the building destroyed and people wading through floodwaters. This is Harvey, and who was actually here for Ike and Harvey? So I see a couple of hands. So this is actually showing it from Lake Charles, and you can see it's actually really off to the west, but you see some of the rain bands again as it begins to move closer to the east. And then you kind of see the eyes start to. So with this Harvey, it run catastrophic, or just really high rainfall amounts. And actually, Harvey was and still is, I believe to this day, the wettest tropical cyclone in US history. So this happened in you guys' community where you saw 60.58 inches of rain in this area and impact this community. Not only is it important for here, it's important nationwide. This is the #1. It still holds the record for the #1 wettest tropical cyclone in US history. Some of the aftermath, and then there was also oil spill. Seeing some of the damage that occurred. And then the last one I want to go over was Imelda. So Imelda was also something that impacted the area, and I was actually that I was actually working for National Weather Service like Charles at the time. So we actually got to experience this kind of as a team going through. You can see it start to move into the Beaumont area there. We're seeing more rain bands start to move in. And it's something that took kind of its time as it moved in. So with that, Imelda is the 7th wettest tropical cyclone in history with 44.29 inches of rain. And here are some of the pictures from the aftermath of Imelda. So the last thing I kind of want to go over, as far as weather and climate is concerned, are just our climate normals. So what we call a 30-year climate normal, what we do is we measure things kind of based off of a 30-year span and we compare it to that. So the record that we are comparing it to now is the 1991 through 2020 year span. So this is like a temperature comparison to a century. So the first one, all the way up on the top left hand side, is just the 1901. And then as you can see, going closer and closer to today's age, the 1991 through 2020, we have only got warmer as a country and in our community. This is our precip record, or precip compared to the 20th century average. So you can see, it might be a little bit harder here to see here, but here is Southeast Texas, and we can see that we've only gotten even wetter as wetter in this area, received more rain. So I did pull this today. This is and I know it's a little bit hard to see, but just last year was kind of it was an anomaly. We had a drought pretty much extending, I want to say, from about May-ish to near the end of the year for 2023. So 2023, we did not see our average for rainfall amounts. In our area, or in this area, we usually see about 60 to 70 inches of rain over the span of a year. However, we only saw last year 39.92. So a little around half of what we usually receive. However, 2024, just this year, and not even included the rain that has fallen that is falling right now, just in 2024, from January all the way through the end of May, we have already received 38.77 inches of rain. And we are about 18 or just over 18 inches higher than what we normally would be at this time of year. As far as temperatures are concerned, max temperatures, we're usually looking at about an average over a year. We're usually looking at around 77 to 80. However, last year we were already at 82.7, or last year our average was 82.7. So we are getting warmer over the day for our max temperatures. For our minimum temperatures, what's normal in this area is around 55 through 63 for a low temperature. However, we were kind of in there, we were at 62.5. So we are getting even warmer in that aspect as well. This is what I was talking about before, with last year being the warmest on record for Beaumont. And it's a little hard to see, but all of the yellow that's in this yellow that's highlighted in there are the records. We're being hit daily high temperature records for the month of August. So we hit it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different times where we broke the broke the high daily record for the month of August. And including that, we had the warmest reported temperature ever, ever for this area, which is 111. So I did want to go over this just a little bit. just a little bit about me. So what inspired me, I actually grew up watching the Weather Channel. That was my thing. I watched it and that's what got me to where I am today. I wanted to be a meteorologist. As soon as even as a kid, just watching this, it interested me in weather. College and major, as was already said, I went to North Carolina A&T State University.
Yeah.
I majored in, yep, Aggie Pride. I majored, yeah, we're the Aggies too, because I know I get a little heat from Texas. I majored in atmospheric sciences and meteorology with a double minor in physics and applied mathematics. And about my job specifically, this is the National Weather Service Lake Charles. This is where we work, do everything that we do. We issue watches, warnings, advisories. Everything that we do happens in this building, or everything that we issue happens in that building. We also launched weather balloons. Who has heard or seen of a weather balloon? That makes me a little bit happy. I will say that. So I'm seeing a decent amount of hands. Our weather balloons are launched from the National Weather Service. And some other things that I've gotten interested in, this is something with the co-op program where we have the ability to, where we actually maintain some of our instruments. So for example, this one right here, and we call it a beehive. It's our minimum and maximum temperature sensor. So it allows us to measure temperatures kind of in different areas. As far as the National Weather Service is concerned, we have 122 offices across the entire nation. However, this is our office down here. And yes, we do cover Jefferson County. Not quite Harris County. Harris County belongs to Houston. And then, do we have any high school age? Who's college age? Right, okay, so mostly college. So if you're interested in meteorology, some courses that I recommend taking, or that you would have to take in order to become a meteorologist, atmospheric dynamics, synoptic meteorology, physical meteorology, and then just physics classes. It is kind of physics and math heavy. However, and I always joke about this, when you actually get into it, you're not learning how to, or you're not using differential equations or anything crazy once you actually get into each one. So don't let that scare you off. Then I'll skip that part, but another thing is that you can volunteer to come to the office, or if you just want to tour the office, we have tours for that. So that's all I have for that. I will hand it over.
It is. Okay, so thank you very much for that informative presentation. Our food is ready, so before we start our next speaker, if everybody would like to line up, if you would like to grab a plate, we do have food here, and we're gonna do that. And then we're gonna have our pastor bless the food, but go ahead and start filing that line. Come on down, don't be shy. Come on. It's catered, right? Who's catered?
Some lounge bistro downtown Beaumont, Orleans Street. Telling you phenomenal ambiance, as well as the friendly service and the food. And if you're my friend, you know, and know me, you know I find the good food. I love to find the good food. So if you would please humble yourselves as we pray over our food.
Let's bow our heads before the Lord. Father God, we thank you for this day, Father God, as we get an echo of exactly what it's about in this town hall meeting. As a reminder, the house is off the rooftop. We're reminded of your son, Jesus, that is the Christ. We pray for this gathering, the ones that have been on behind the scenes and before the scenes. Father God, touch the food for the announcement of our especially.
Just really quick, if someone has a Nissan Altima, a white Nissan Altima, you're back with everything.
Something to do something that needs to. I might have, keep up with them once they get up, change problems, but the dog is starting to come in. I'm trying to use it, and that is fine. That's the same thing. It's a good turn. It's a good turnout. Good little shot. She's in vacation, so maybe she's got that. This is, this, I can't send you, I can't send you. I mean, say that, I can't hear it. I've got the list, I'll go to some of you let me know, some of them. I got a gym. Is that it? Yeah, it's. I'll Oh, you got it, okay. Yeah, I was just gonna make sure. Okay, I got you. So that I would make sure. Yeah, I get to see.
If anybody wants to get more than water, we do have, specialty made punch from the restaurant. You're more than welcome to get punch if you want a little bit more than water.
Yeah. But does everybody, you did.
You got one, there was one, and you come in.
You know.
Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and get started with our next speaker. A very impressive man. He has done a lot for society and the city. His name is Captain Tim Olsencheck. Did I do that right? I don't think so.
Hard to see.
Olsencheck. Okay. So Captain Tim has 38 years in law enforcement and is currently assigned as the Administrative Division Commander for the Beaumont Police Department and is also the Emergency Management Coordinator for the City of Beaumont since January 2007. He's a retired reservist, Chief Master Sergeant, assigned to Air Education and Training Command and Headquarters, USAF as Security Forces Manager, with 13 bases and over 2,500 security forces members. Captain Tim has extensive incident management experience from a wide variety of major events, as well as multiple local, state, and federal disasters, including serving as Beaumont's incident commander for Hurricanes Gustav, Ike, Harvey, Tropical Storm Imelda, Laura, and COVID-19, Winter Storm, and other notable disasters. So I think he knows about what to do in time of disasters, that's for sure.
That's for sure.
He was appointed in March 2017 as the Region 6 Director for the All Hazard Incident Manager Team Association, where he also served as the Treasurer of the Board. So please join me as we welcome Captain Tim. Thank you.
I appreciate it, and I don't have a clicker, so I'm gonna have to stay stuck back here to advance the slides, but I do. This is an awesome turnout. I mean, appreciate all y'all taking time out of your Saturday to come. Obviously. Obviously, this is a big issue. as you hear continued rain after hearing the results of already this year. I think, we just left the state emergency management conference and they said, the weather service was given a brief and they said we're already over 600% of the water expected for the year. So, you know, what happens is it comes down the river and floods us right now. Sometimes you have something like Imelda, as you heard, or Harvey, that the rain falls so intensely in one area that it floods, no matter how much drainage you have. And then you have the opposite side, sometimes when hurricanes come in, where you have surge come in and push water. And when you have a combination of all those factors, it can be pretty detrimental. But Chris Jones said something right off the bat that I want to remind y'all about, and that is, this is a all hazards approach. We're looking at across the board resiliency for the city and for this area, for your communities. And so we don't want to get too focused. Not only is it maybe a flood week, but it's also the first day of hurricane season. And that lasts till the end of November. So this hurricane season is projected to be extra intense with a lot of storms. But how many does it take to affect us? One. So, you know, no matter how, if you look at analog years, similar years in the past, or you look at you know, off years, when you get hit by that one, it's really bad. And unfortunately, it doesn't have to be real close to hurt us. If you saw the wide swath of Ike or Harvey, well within all y'all's lifespans, even the youngest, it's huge and it affects so many people. So you got to be prepared. So today I was asked to focus on shelter and evacuation, and we'll talk a little bit about preparedness with respect to those two categories. But what I want to also make sure we're looking at is all hazard preparedness. You see how to make it. Okay. There's a definition for those of y'all that can see it, but basically finding a safe place indoors, and sometimes indoors might be in your vehicle, so we'll talk about that as well. Sometimes these are at the request of a first responder, or maybe one of your teachers or professor. In this case, it could be a host of different things, such as an active shooter, a hurricane, a tornado, a flood incident. Not too many years ago, my daughter had her car parked at the Lamar parking lot, and it flooded to over the window or over the door into the window of her car. So sometimes, no matter where you are, you might find issues if you're not prepared for them. So we want to make sure that y'all are. Sometimes the chief elected official of the organization will direct evacuation or a shelter in place. Sometimes that, in our case, it's the mayor. For some of y'all, it's a judge if you live in an unincorporated area. In Texas, for those of y'all that aren't familiar, Texas is a home rule state. So that means that instead of the governor directing things, it comes from the local official. So everything starts at the local level and ends at the local level. So we have to be really prepared. And sometimes, even if we ask for help, it takes a little while to get here. So we can't necessarily depend on others to come save us. We have to take the right actions up front.
Can you say that one more time, please, sir?
We got to take the right actions up front. We got to make sure that we're prepared, and we can't depend always on other people to take care of us. So, Yeah, I know that's, important, in a community that's impacted as we are by a lot of different things. So government code, the numbers there, 418, gives us some emergency powers that is to affect either, an evacuation of all or part of a jurisdiction. So sometimes it might just be a small, localized location. You know, sometimes when the river floods, we might have a few houses along the east side of Pine Street, or maybe if it's up on, the Pine Island Bio, up, if you live or go up in the north end, or the northwest portion, like off Tram Road and stuff, there's some areas that potentially could be impacted if the water gets too high. So sometimes we wanna look at what the forecast is. We work very closely with our National Weather Service partners, and we might have to direct an evacuation or at least a warning so that y'all can take the right actions. Sometimes we have some industry incidents, and I know with the Charlton-Pollard neighborhood, Lamar, specifically South Park neighborhood, we've had a lot of integration and interaction with ExxonMobil and the Port of Beaumont. And so there's a lot of stuff going on there, and sometimes there's some concerns, even though it's an extremely safe operation, sometimes there's concerns. And the local industry works with the Office of Emergency Management with us, and they'll tell us if they think something's coming out that could be hazardous, and then we'll provide a warning. We have several systems. We have the ability to, through the use of phone notifications, some audible, and also, you know, how many people in here still have a home phone? I see one hand, and I'm not surprised. That's not unusual, but almost everybody has a cell phone. Sometimes even our youngest, people. So one of the things that we're allowed to do, and we'll talk about it, briefly later, but it's, using cell phone notifications. We have two ways to do it. One is through voluntary use of y'all giving us your cell phone. So how many of y'all have signed up for emergency notifications so far? That's a pretty amazing amount of people. So I thank y'all. For those of y'all haven't, we do have a Southeast Texas Alert Network. So if you live anywhere in Hardin, Jefferson, Orange, or Jasper counties, we collaborate on one notification system. So it's under the naming of STAN, which is the Southeast Texas Alert Network. And so wherever you're at, even if you're in Harris County, for those of y'all that talk about that, there's a notification system there. It might not be the same as ours. It just so happens that Harris County has a kind of notification vendor that we do, but most of the other jurisdictions might have a different one. But if you sign up for alerts, you can go to our city website. You can call 311 if you live in the city of Beaumont, and you can tell them you want to sign up, but that's for emergency notifications only. And again, what we'll do is if there's an industry related alert, they'll tell us what the alert is, how big of an area needs to be affected or addressed. It might just be notification only. It might be a shelter in place. It might be an evacuation, but we'll work between our fire department and the industry fire department. We'll make sure that the right message is sent out. Severe weather obviously is a real common one. You know, we don't get a lot of tornadoes down in this part, this close to the coast, but periodically we do. And for those of y'all that have been around a little while, y'all remember what looked like a tornado down in the Lamar area. It was straight line winds. They did, I mean, the damage to me looked a lot like tornadoes, but we did have You have one tornado up by Parkdale Mall and Kohl's, if y'all remember, Walmart. Bunch of cars turned over in the parking lot and, took the roof off several major retailer stores. Again, these are things that can happen at spur of a moment, notice, and, you have to be careful. So you need to know where to go to be safe. Sometimes your car, if it's a tornado, if you saw the cars turned over in Walmart parking lot, you probably wouldn't have wanted to be in that car. So, try to get to, the center interior walls of a building. Maybe a bathroom on the inside of your, house or a closet or something like that. You see the word basement on here. I don't know how many of y'all have a basement in Beaumont area, but not many. Go figure, our police department does. It was built during the Cold War era. And, so it's a couple hundred yards. I was gonna say feet, but I'm trying to be pretty legit. It's probably not over 200 yards from the river, and it has a basement. So there are some that still exist, but there's some, good places to go. Some of these parking garages, if you can get out from under the direct, drive your car into one, that's a good place too. If you have a radio operated battery, or, battery operated radio, that's really, good in case the power goes out. Some of y'all probably have those little chargers for your cell phone. That's pretty nice. 'Cause I know everybody lives on a cell phone anymore, but you may not be able to plug it in. So, having one of those available is good too. Sheltering in your vehicle. We had last weekend, we had a number of people, the storms were rolling through from the front of top of Texas down through our area. And we had people traveling to a conference up I-45, and people were stopping right in the middle of a lane of traffic under an overpass. Not smart. I mean, sometimes you can't see what's directly in front of you. Y'all have probably seen the fogs that come rolling through town every once in a while. And we've had 70 to 100 car pileups because of fog or limited visibility. So, if you're gonna stop and pull over, okay, if you do it under an overpass, but just don't stop in a lane of traffic. Get over as much as you can. Some people were pulled up next to a building where they could have some protection against the hail. There's quite a bit of hail this last week in different areas. Some of it, one of the ladies that I work with down in Nederland has a brick home, and the hail was hard enough to actually put chips out of her brick. So just think if that hits you, it's not gonna be good. So, don't think that just because it's a little bit of hail, it's not gonna be bad. It can go right through your windows in your car, through your house. So you wanna get as good a shelter as you can. If you can get up against a building where the wind's blowing it the opposite way, there's quite a few ways to protect yourselves. And I'm gonna show you some links near the end of this presentation, and they're in your handouts. And I do have a few more available here if some of y'all need some that, they're quick national approaches to preparedness and to go kits and the things to think about. Those of y'all that are in cars, tune your radio to a news station instead of continuing to listen to the music. Maybe get some updates that are gonna be beneficial for you. Civil unrest, it does happen periodically. You see this one from the Beaumont Enterprise, been many, many years, but more importantly, you see active shooter events happening all over the country. You never know when it's gonna happen, whether it's at school, at home, usually it's where there's more people gathered, so it's not as common at homes, but you also have people do drive-bys and things like that. So you need to seek shelter inside if you can. close and lock the doors, turn off the lights, make it look like nobody's home. And, you know, feel free to call the police. If y'all have, and I'll just throw this out there right now, that if y'all have an issue, some people are like, well, I didn't want to call the police. It's suspicious, but I don't want to bother them. That's what we're here for. So please, if you're concerned about something, let us come check it out for you. Don't take it upon yourself to check it out. We've had a couple of times where significant criminal actions have taken place, like somebody is stealing the catalytic converter on a car, and a car owner comes up and sees it and tries to confront them, and they get shot. Okay, so, you know, a lot of times, just let us handle it. So call us, let us handle it. Y'all be a good witness and try to call from a safe place. If it's an active shooter, what's the saying? What's the first thing we want to do if there's an active shooter situation? I hear a couple whispers. What's the first thing you do? Run? You get away? Go to a shelter, find a place to go, get out of there. Okay, but what if you can't? You then hide. Okay, so try to make it to where nobody knows you're there. If quite a few of the Lamar dorms, all the schools around Beaumont, they now have the locks. You can lock those, keep people out. You know, do what you can, but what happens when all else fails and they found you? Are you just gonna sit there? You're gonna fight. Okay, so run when you can, hide when you can't, and then fight. Use whatever you got, a trash can, throw something at them, a chair. You know, it doesn't have to be some fancy weapon, but don't just sit there. Hazmat events, one time we had to evacuate most of the north end of Beaumont because of a large pipeline, a gas pipeline, leak. And, so basically we provided a shelter for people to go to if they didn't have a place. It didn't take long, maybe half a day or so, to let it clear out and get it capped off. But there's things that happen. Sometimes there's a spill on the highway, or a roadway. If you happen to be in the area near there, the fire department, the technical experts will give us a look, or they'll give us a radius out from the scene that we need to evacuate from. Sometimes all you have to do is just stay out of the chemicals, and you can do that by staying in your house. And we'll tell you, you know, shelter in place, but what everybody wants to do is they want to be comfortable, so they leave that AC on, and that AC is drawing air from outside. So even though it's uncomfortable in Southeast Texas weather, you gotta turn that AC off, or the heat off. Make sure that, if you have big cracks under your doors or something, throw some towels on there. Make sure your doors and windows are closed and locked, because sometimes just locking them will add an extra seal. One other thing I'll throw in here, because I don't know how much time I have left. I'll throw in about preparing your house. A lot of times people will think they're ready to go. They're all chummed up inside and they've got their dough kit and everything, but they forget about cleaning out their backyard, and they got a wood pile back there and some toys and a tricycle and a little swing set. Next thing you know, those are all basically missiles that go and break things. If you had to guess on a house, what's the number one way that wind will get in your house? What breaks first? Windows is probably number two, but what's even the garage door? So there's some ways you can fix that and help that. If you end up staying inside, you could maybe use your car to pin the door. You could hold the door. A lot of the ones, if you're in Beaumont, or south of Beaumont, we're in a windstorm area, so many of your houses, at least if they were built in recent years, their code is a little bit more sturdy. But if your house is older or something, or you live a little bit north out of the windstorm area, the way they built it is not real rugged. And so there's some little tricks you can do just to keep it from going. A lot of times, if you can keep air from entering your house through the windows, the doors, the whatever, it'll stand up to much more than you think, or than it's rated for. You'll see some roofing go off sometimes, but as soon as wind gets in that house, it just tears it up. So, you want to try to prevent giving away, like having wood fly from your wood pile through a window or something like that and damage it. Evacuations, more people get killed from the flooding, the drowning, than from getting hit by something or a house caving in on them because a tree fell on it or something. So we definitely want to run from surge. If that's why, if we think there's a chance of water coming up into an area where the housing is, we want you to get out of there. And many times you have a place to go, but when we order you out of an area, we will come up with a place and even transportation if you need it to get there. We're in a hurricane coastal area, so if there's a hurricane coming, we're generally not going to have a shelter established here in Beaumont. We establish them out of town, and then we transport people out of town. So you may have to go way up north to get out of the eye of the storm. But you know, sometimes we've had it where we didn't have time to go, like Harvey or a couple other storms, Imelda, and a number of others that we could probably talk about. But the big thing is we'll try to lock down, batten the hatches till it passes. And then if there's a lot of damage, we'll try to establish a shelter either here or out of town for those people that need it. You know, a lot of people think they're self-sufficient, but they go clean their yard or something and they cut their leg, or they get sick. People continue dying every day. I hate to say it, but there's continuity of government things. And if you don't have a hospital to take care of you, or you don't have Meals on Wheels for senior citizens that don't have a way to eat, dialysis, there's some, you know, how many times we've lost our water system here in Beaumont, 2 or 3 times. You know, we've had saltwater inundation when I come in. So even if you had water pressure, you couldn't afford to run it because it would tear up your equipment. So sometimes it's just not safe to stay back, and we'll order an evacuation to get y'all to a safer place. There's some items to take. Y'all have it in your handouts, and there's gonna be some links on here. You know, make sure that if your pets, you want to take care of them too. So have the key things for your pets as well as you. Make sure your tanks are full. A lot of times these gas stations, they don't keep a lot of gas in their tanks because the prices fluctuate a lot. So there's some plans to surge along evacuation zones. So they'll put extra fuel in those right when an evacuation is mandated. But you can help greatly by keeping your tank at least half full during hurricane season. That way, if you do need to get gas and something's coming in, you're only filling up half your car instead of the whole car. Because you could drain all the gas in the region really, really quick if you wait too long to get gas. So that's a way you can help. Have some backup food in your house, and make sure you have prescription medication or your actual prescription so you can get it filled out of town. Go kits. One of the things it talks about there. pictures are worth 1,000 words. You've probably heard that a lot, but if you try to get money back from, your insurance company, FEMA, small business associations or administration, any of these places, it's easier to make your point if you can prove it with a picture. So take some video, make sure you keep an inventory. And if you go out of town, take that stuff, those pictures with you and the, you know, your key documents that you might need. I've already talked about Stan for the sake of time. I'll move past this. Y'all do have it in your, handout. The 1-800 the Stan will work. If you call it now, you can call it 311 if you're in the city. And you can go to our website and you can, register for emergency alerts any of those ways. Stay informed. There's some links, ready.gov. If you go to the city website, the emergency management page, we have links to link to these sites and some others. There's some just handy go kits that we've already prepared, like a list, hey, have these items with you. Sometimes we even give out some go kits. I didn't bring any with me today, but it doesn't take a lot to do it. It just takes time to put it all together and have it in one place so that in an urgent situation, you can grab it and go, or grab it and go into your safe spot in your house.
So do those links tell us what goes into a go kit?
There is, and on the Beaumont, Texas.gov, if you go to the emergency management link, we actually have a whole kit package. But all these sites, all these links have a link that either takes you to it or gives you a sample go kit right there. It gives you a checklist of what should be in it. But a lot of us are just plagiarizing off other people because we're not reinventing the wheel. We're just trying to make sure people are prepared and have the right stuff in their packs. So with that, I was asked about joining the team as well. We do have positions in the organization. We have interns almost every semester. We have from both LIT and Lamar. Some of them are in the police side or criminal investigation side. Some are in emergency management, but we do have those opportunities. We have part-time and full-time positions. In fact, we're in the process of hiring a part-time position right now in emergency management. But we have a lot of other opportunities, even for younger crew that are maybe just graduating from high school through, you know, even seniors. We had a 59-year-old person join the police department and go through the academy in the past 6 months. So we don't have an age limit. On the top end, on the bottom end, there are state laws. You have to be 18 to be a dispatcher, but you don't have to be 18 to be an intern. And you have to be 21 to be an officer, but you can start training at 20. So we have a lot of opportunities. We do the policing, practicum in policing. It's like a college class every summer through Lamar. And we have the Citizens Police Alumni and Citizen Police Academy for anybody that wants it. And I know a couple of y'all, I think here have been through it, but it's really gives you a chance to see behind the curtain, so to speak. And, you know, for those of y'all that might think about getting into it or getting into emergency management or police work, or, you know, we have a lot of civilian police positions as well as sworn. So if you're interested, this gives you a chance to see a little more of it. So with that, sorry for taking so long with questions. Yes, sir.
So I have an online question from Roger Drayton. So how is it that you can strengthen your garage door one more time, please?
Well, there's one way would be to have have some strengthening mechanisms in there, which the door companies will do. Another easy way that I found is if you have a car that's gonna be there, you're not gonna take both or you're not leaving, you can back it up and pin that door in place so that it doesn't start rattling. Once it starts getting some space, it makes more space and it'll break. But if you can pin that door in there, either with structural, like put a board in there, or lock it with the bolts, and then or back a car up in it. We've had very good success with just that little simple trick.
Second question, you have referred to handouts a few times. Is there any chance of those handouts being accessible to, those of us who are joined virtually?
I can send it to you if you want to send it out to.
Absolutely, and I'll send it to Dr. Gage as well. And anybody else that wants it?
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Definitely learned a lot today. We have one last speaker. Chris, do you want to invite him up?
So, I got an activity just right fast. How many of us are, in high school, middle school, elementary school? I see some elementary students. Middle school? Okay, so intern, as Captain mentioned, was definitely for you all. Middle school, high school students. I know for sure, sixth grade, you may be able to get in, but more things open up for those that are seventh grade and up. So I definitely want parents and the community to take advantage of the internships that are available throughout the community. Now, I have the illustrious privilege of introducing you to our keynote speaker, Dr. Marco Robinson. Dr. Robinson is a historian, a social scientist, archival and qualitative methods specialist. Dr. Marco is an associate professor of history and the associate director of Ruth J. Simmons Center for Race and Justice at Prairie View A&M University. An interdisciplinary researcher at heart, the Mozilla Foundation recently funded Robinson's project titled Considering Rural Communities and Issues Through, guess what? Social responsibility. Additionally, he was one of the featured experts on KHOU's 2021, 2022, and 2023 Juneteenth documentaries. His research interests include rural communities, the afterlives of emancipated people, the establishment of PVA&M University, and the life in post-Civil War era Texas. Robinson's recent co-edited book, Contemporary Debate in Social Justice and Interdisciplinary Approach to Exploring the Lives of Black and Brown Americans, explores the complexes around Black and Brown communities and social justices or issues that we may face. Dr. Marco specializes in historic preservation, community studies, and facilitating projects that engage in digitizing of historical pictures and documentation. If you will, please welcome with me Prairie View's own Dr. Marco Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Jones, you're too kind with those words.
You think so?
Yes,
That's right.
I really appreciate that. It's a superb introduction. I'd like to thank, Mr. Jones and his organization for putting on this, event. It's noteworthy and it brings communities together. My work is centered in community, and I come from community, and I want to talk about that a little bit, with Dr. Gage and the work that she's been engaging in at Lamar and, across the state. This is important. This is a very important moment, in our country's history in the sense that we're facing, a number of catastrophes yearly, right? We just got out of a COVID epidemic, right? Now seems like storms on a rage already, right? Those of you who live through Harvey, you can see, last week, that's me doing fence repair at my in-laws house, due to a tornado that came through Katy and, profoundly impacted the area there. So all of us, regardless of age, we have some sense of what, disasters when they occur and when they happen, right? Having just been fresh out of the COVID epidemic and during that epidemic, I spent my time on Zoom. I was funded and did a pilot study with a local African-American church in Prairie View, to where I was assessing through qualitative and quantitative methods how COVID had impacted the lives of those congregants that attended that particular church. And so in that study, some of the things that I found out in terms of the way the epidemic disrupted the people socialize with each other, the way people even day-to-day things they did, groceries, right? Social isolation, right? I want y'all to think about when we had to order at home for those weeks and you want to go see your friend. Y'all can relate to this. Many of you who are in college age kids and high school kids, you went through that where we're doing online learning, right? And tied to that, your social life was non-existent during that time, right? So you kind of understand the nuances around that. We haven't had a generation that's experienced that, right? There's so much work and so much studying and research that we can conduct around how that impacted us. And I say that in the sense, this was a collective incident that impacted all of us, right? Across different age groups, ethnic groups, racial groups. So I want to talk about that a little bit as we move forward. And I won't focus much on health disparities, even though I have a lot of research in it. I want to focus on the disaster, natural disasters, because it's one of the things that immediate from the current incidents that have been happening. I do want to take time to talk about kind of my path to this work. All right, I'm a country boy. I'm from Mississippi, y'all. And I know some of you are wondering, well, where does that accent come from? Is that St. Louis? Is that Alabama? Is that Georgia? I'm from Mississippi, northern Mississippi. From a little community called Moortown. But you know how people say, well, where are you from? I'm from Houston, but you're really from Cyprus, right? Moortown is connected to the town of Fernando. That's the municipality that I'm closest to, right? So this picture of me here, as the people around me, I was raised in the Baptist church, understanding what community meant. This community that I'm seeing right now, across racial lines, across gender lines, all of us here together today in the interest of each other, right? And that's one of the things I like to highlight in my work, right? Community, and that looks, and it's not monolithic, it looks so many different ways and different variations across different spaces, right? So I want to be very deliberate in the way I describe it, because some people don't define that loosely. That's a very broad term when you say that for me, in terms of inclusivity and the people that we live by and understanding who they are, right? And know, more importantly, their backgrounds, their identities, and their history, right? So that's very important. As you can see, this is a picture of my cousins and I. This picture was taken like in the early 1980s, right? You can see the black and white photo doesn't even have any color with it. It was in front of my grandmother's home. And as I was reflecting back and thinking about that time, the people that were around me and what it meant, right? You think about your family in that same sense and what that means to you. And even as you see my picture that graduated from Jackson State University, which is one HBCU located in Mississippi. I know shout out to North Carolina A&T. I graduated from Jackson State University. I got my master's and my bachelor's degree from there, but I got my PhD from the University of Mississippi. So I say that to you in terms of how I got here at this moment to this work. It was through community. I want to emphasize that. the people that were around me and working in unison with them to make things better than what I found them once I came into this thing called being a professor, right? Many of you, speaking particularly to those of you who are in college right now, you found a major, but I want to talk to you about finding a purpose. Right?
Come on, Doc.
I want to talk to you about finding a purpose. You know what you're majoring in, you've got your curriculum sheet, making sure that each semester you're taking the right courses, making the right grades, not taking classes that you don't need, right? Your parents are asking you about calculators, so when you graduate, how many more semesters,
Yeah.
right? But I want to talk to you more concerning about purpose, right? How do you find it in your major? And that's something that I found at Jackson State University. If you listen to that introduction that it gave you, my PhD is in history, but I do a lot of stuff that's out of the realm of the work that I do because I have purpose in community. So I want you to think very broadly about the skills that you're gaining right now. What's the work that you want to do? And that work is purposeful, but more importantly, that work is meaningful to the people who are around you in your immediate circle, but in your extended circle too. The people in Beaumont want to benefit from what you're learning, right? Some of you have very innovative ideas, things that you want to implement that improves the human condition here in this area, right? That does not happen with you being secluded from the people that you need to be helping, right?
Right.
And just because something's not a problem to you, that does not mean it's not a problem to someone else, right? I want you to think along those lines. It's something that I had to learn coming to Prairie View. I'm a Mississippi transplant. I moved here in 2016. Dropped off in that city. Prairie View wasn't established until the late 1960s. And now I'm in a whole new community. I didn't know anyone, but I had to figure out what community meant. That doesn't mean that you always resided there, right? I want you to think about this. Those who might only be connected to this community just for these 4 years while you're here at the university, at Lamar University. But what impact did you make? And you might think, I'm just a student. I got student loan bills. Are you going to help me pay those? You can have impact. And I want to recognize my student researcher, Aaron Valdez. I'm like talking about things that I don't put into practice my own self. Aaron, who is an interpreter for our center, but more importantly, as we go out and speak to Spanish-speaking communities, Aaron is interpreting and communicating and making sure that that message is not missed by communities that don't have the same language barriers that we have. So I want to be very clear about that I model what I'm telling you right now through instilling and giving my students opportunities to do that, to impact their community. And I say that to you again. You have a major. Now I want you to think about what is your purpose? How are you going to improve the human condition of those around you? You went on this earth for a purpose. I want you to be thinking about that as you move forward. I want to talk about natural disasters in contemporary times. The meteorologist also, Captain Tim, did a very great job of giving y'all insight and expertise in terms of experience. I want to approach this more from humanistics in a humanistic sense and talk about what I experienced and what those I've been researching, what they experienced. And you see this picture, that's me walking knee-deep water in my neighborhood during Hurricane Harvey. And as you look, I'm looking around, I'm like, what am I gonna do? What's the next step? Who do I call, right? And so my very first level of support was my communal support. And I want you to think about that. The community, immediately, my neighbors, right? Those who could help me funnel water out of my yard, those who could give me bottles of water as I needed bottles of water. That's the first one. The title that I put on top of this, creating communities of care, we have to care about each other, y'all. The neighborhood that I live in, it's predominantly Indian. When I say Indian, not as in Native American, but Indian as in origins in India, right? I'm not fluent in Urdu. I'm not fluent in Hindi. And so there are language barriers, right? So I say that to each of you, you have to get to know your neighbors, right? I know about 3 different types of curry, simply because of where I live at and who my neighbors are, right? I know what masala is, as a result of that, and I'm from Mississippi. There's not a Masala in Mississippi, y'all. I want to be very direct about that and intentional in saying that, but I took the onus upon myself to learn, right? Through our sharing relationships are developed, right? So I want to say that to each of you, understanding each other's backgrounds and embracing each other is an indelible part of making community, right? And so I want you to think about the next time you're about somebody, there may be someone here today that you don't know, introduce yourself, right? People who have an interesting background or have a connection to you that you don't even know you have a connection to. So the next thing I want you to think about is, I went to the grocery store. I know many of you went to the grocery store doing Harvey and there were just empty shelves. What am I going to eat? Regardless of whatever needs you need during the day, your belly is calling, right? It's calling. You have to feed yourself, right? It's one of the immediate needs that you're gonna have. And so that came in that moment from my neighbors. What do you have? Well, I have bread. I have macaroni. Oh, I have some chicken. So what we had? We had fried chicken, macaroni, and we had bread to go with it.
Come on.
Right? So I say that to each of you, we put our meager resources together in that moment and we made it, right? Through community. So I say that and I'm giving these very foundational examples simply because that's the first line of defense. Before you get to local officials and relief agencies and national and state relief agencies, your first line of defense is community. And I want to emphasize that because all of the research and the data that I've collected is community networks that are strong, that communicate, and that are resourceful, help mitigate disasters when they happen, right? Because next, I want to hop around and talk about how that happens through sharing information, through events like this, right? The backdrop of this is historically, we know that there are systemic things in our society that have occurred that have impacted different groups than others, right? There's an article that was written in 2017 by a couple of my colleagues from Texas A&M University, dealing with how Black people have been doing disaster planning. And so oftentimes in communities, and I'm not gonna read off the slide, but I do want to talk about a couple of points that they made. Oftentimes minority groups, Black and brown people have been put on least desirable pieces of property in cities in terms of the way they've been situated. They've been by those who've been keeping up with what's going on in Harris County. There's a cancer cluster. There's a cancer cluster because those communities are located near industrial facilities, where over generations this has impacted their health, right? So in these particular instances, in the same sense, because they're on undesirable land, when floods happen, they impact them more because they're in spaces where there's a floodplain, right? So I say that to you that we have to take this into consideration. The best plans take into consideration those who are most vulnerable. I want to say that again emphatically. The best plans that you put in place take into consideration those groups, those individuals who are most vulnerable, right? It's good that Chris has a boat. If his house goes away, he's gonna ride away anyway, right? But what about, let's get a raft so I can pick my neighbors up too.
Correct.
And you can tie that raft with a rope to the boat, right? Contingency plan right there, and that's working, right? So you have to be forthright thinking in that sense. And then that seems like something very comical that I just said, but I'm saying that in the sense that communicating with each other and understanding community, you can work out plans like this. A number of people that I've interviewed who are survivors of Hurricane Katrina, the way they survived is through community, right? When they were sitting on the roof waiting on relief, and didn't any relief come. Their neighbors came and got them ultimately, right?
Right.
So I want you to be thinking about that, right? You might be catapulted into that position one day, and are you ready for it? None of us are ever ready for it, but in that moment, you have to step up to the call, right? I'm sorry, I want to. So, with that being said, I've been working with limited producing farmers. There's a grant I've been working on through the College of Agriculture at Creighton University, where I've been conducting research with limited producers farmers and how disasters impact their operations. Dr. Noah Eswick, who's the PI on the project, we've been going around and looking at how hard the most recent hurricanes, most recent natural disasters impacted these farmers and their operations, but more importantly, planning. Planning is something that's proactive. You have to have something already in place, have it already thought out, and even when you have it thought out, there can be incidents where the plan that you had really didn't work because there are some extra circumstances that came along with it. As the meteorologist already pointed to you, we had the most rain that we've ever experienced in these United States of America as a result of harvest. Let me give you an example of how much rain it was. It was enough rain to fill up Lake Michigan. Enough rain to fill up the biggest of the Great Lakes, Lake Michigan, right? We had that in a period of about 5 to 7 days, right? And I want you to think about this. All of that fell in my particular subdivision, y'all, we have a retention pond that's probably about a half-mile wide. And it split, and then it starts again. It was full. It spilled out into all the streets. And so I say that to you, when these incidents occur, nobody is exempt. And you have to take into consideration that your plan has a possibility of not working, right? So you always have to overshoot when you troubleshoot. Now, let me say that again. That's kind of a phrase that goes along with disaster preparedness. Overshoot when you troubleshoot. Because whatever you plan for potentially might not work, right? They didn't think the levees were going to break, right? And some instances, they broke the levees, right? So I want to be very forthcoming with you and talking about that be mindful of that as a community and be more importantly, look out for the interests of others. As you can see, there's a representative from the United States Department of Agriculture speaking to a group. In that particular group right there, I was holding a focus group. These were limited producing farmers that were from Georgia. I had the Georgia group. There was another group from North Carolina. There was a group from Florida. There was another group from Texas. There was a group from Tennessee. So I was assigned to the Georgia group, and each one of these producers had different types of operations. One individual had peanuts, one other was watermelons, another one, she had a peach farm. So they had a very a group of different type of operations that they ran. But in this particular instance, they were able to get insight on planning from state and federal agencies. It's so important. I say to the community and people in this sense, understand what the processes are before the catastrophe attack. That is so important. Because once you get into that and you didn't understand, you're gonna be frustrated because I didn't know it took this much paperwork. I didn't know now that I talked to this person, I gotta go talk to this person next. Understand the steps. Many of you who went through Harvard and you filed claims with FEMA, you filed claims with state agencies, you know how long that process takes. And the other side of that process is sometimes you don't even get what you deserve out of that process. I want to be very forthcoming and truthful with you about that, but on the front end, do your due diligence. On the front end, making sure that you understand the process, you understand the paperwork, but more importantly, that you understand those, you know who those individuals are who you need to talk to. Because you might not even have internet to look up what the office that you need to contact, right? Correct. In Harvard, the power was shut off. If you already have that number locked in your phone, in this instance, you have the emergency management administrator for this area in the room with you right now. Everyone who lives in here needs to make sure he knows your face. I would go up to him after and I would shake his hand and look him in the eye, right? And make sure that he knows my name, right? And where I live at too. Right. So when that call comes, it's not going into an abyss or a blank space. Oh, I know her. Let me speak to her. Right? That's a big difference from Jamie. Who is Jamie? And where does Jamie live? Is that a Beaumont address?
Right.
Right, and I don't wanna put you in that position. Personalize it, y'all, on the front end. I say that research has shown, and what we advocate and what we endorse and what we encourage our constituents that we've been working with to do is to have relationships with these organizations prior. That's being proactive, right? So that people know your name, they know where you live at. But no, more importantly, if they know where you live at, they know the circumstances that you're facing, right? If they're doing assessment, doing a disaster, right? So make sure on the front end that you do that. We were working with these farmers to make sure that they had plans in place for their operations and contingency plans if those plans did not work. You can see me here, we worked with them for about 3 days at that particular conference that we held there. And we've been making a model for other communities and other groups within communities that we can share with others. And it's very important. Rural America is very vulnerable, y'all. You hear talk recently about infrastructure in cities. If the infrastructure in cities were the most popular places or the most people live, if infrastructure is bad, then what is going on in the countryside?
Right, it's probably worse.
They're even more vulnerable, right? And the problems in the countryside are even worse than in the city, right? Because there is at least been an attempt at solving those problems in the city. If they didn't put Band-Aids on it, if you have a pothole, they will fill it up. In the countryside, that pothole is turned into a piece of washed off portion of the road. Seriously. We're laughing, but we know that. If those who live in rural Texas, who live on half rock roads, those who don't know what rock roads are, oh, I've only had asphalt all my life.
On concrete side.
That's not the case. All right, well, we have people in rural America, countryside America that are suffering, right? A number of issues from even having adequate disposal of waste, human waste from your house, right? Septic tank.
Ouch.
Right? And how they can cause issues around spreading diseases from cholera to other things.
Yeah,
So,
dog.
you know,
Yeah.
being born, and guess what the name of the road that I was raised on is called? I don't say Pennsylvania, but Pennsylvania Avenue is not. I probably could have been
Oh,
even
my
you $1 million to know about it. The name of the road that I was raised on is Fall Road. Does that sound like a metropolitan area or not? Fall Road, FOGD. Fall Road South to be precise.
Yeah.
So I say that to each of you that rural America has an impending crisis. Areas like here in Beaumont and the countryside in Port Arthur along the shoreline, the Gulf Shore, to where we as citizens and residents of these areas, we have to step up and take a more concerted effort. A lot of people in these big cities don't even know what's going on with our areas. They don't even, I could send the same administrator from Houston, from Harris County down here to replace Mr. Tim, and he wouldn't know bottom from top on how to approach what it is, because Mr. Tim lives here. Mr. Tim is rooted here. Mr. Tim understands geography here, and he understands the people here, right? That's where the culture comes in and how this thing plays out. So I say that to you in the same sense of understanding where you are in the place, right? And I get ready to leave, I want to give you a case study, y'all. This gentleman that I'm standing with, his name is Mr. Owens. He's 95 years old. He's an elder gentleman in the community there in Waller County. And I did a methodology called Photo Voice with him, to where he showed me pictures and we talked about damage he endured during the Hurricane Harvey, how that impacted his farming operation. And when I say farming operation, y'all, small, limited producers, these are not big farmers. You're not gonna go to Walmart to find their product. You can go down to the Hempstead Market.
Right.
And you can find things that they're selling down there every first and third Saturday.
Yeah.
Right? But you're not gonna find the products in Walmart. So I'm saying that to you so you can get the context of if things stop for them, that means revenue stop and the money is cut out. Right? So in this particular instance, we're standing by a tractor and he does not have a covered barn. So when, weather occurs, his tractor is exposed to the elements. So one of the things that he experienced is the hoses on his tractor busted, right? Because they dry rotted out.
Right.
So his tractor wasn't working. On top of that, that field that he's standing in right here, it got flooded, y'all. It got flooded. So all of the watermelons that he planted that year, he wanted to take to market, sell, through different vendors, local vendors in the area, was a wrap. He essentially lost his whole crop. Did he have crop insurance? No.
No.
Did he have a plan prior to this happening?
No.
No. Didn't know he needed one. You know how they've been, in this particular community, you know how they've been taking these incidents when they happen
Right.
on the chin. I can remember very vividly, my grandparents come to me and saying the times that their parents came and told them, we had a bad crop this year, it didn't pay out. That means no Christmas. Alright, and I'm saying no Christmas for folks who are only getting apples and oranges for Christmas in the first place.
Correct. All right now.
Alright, some of y'all may know what I'm talking about, when you got candy nuts, apples and oranges. for
Yes,
Christmas,
sir.
You don't know anything about a PlayStation 5 or 4 or iPhone 15.
Strawberry.
It was a joy and an honor to get those apples and those oranges for Christmas. Right?
Peppermint. Yes,
So
sir.
I say that to you in the sense that you think about lack. And in that instance where you didn't make any money off of that crop this year, how profoundly, and I want to say that profoundly impacted they were, right? This man is already 95 years old and he's a good, get around, still drive 95-year-old, 5 years for being a centenarian, right? From being 100. His operation is part-time help from local community people. He doesn't even have anybody full-time. So he had very limited sustainability in terms of his operation. The thing that we were able to do, and I say this to each of you, and I'm so glad that Lamar University is connecting to community and helping community out. One of the first line of defenses needs to be your local institution of higher education. He was able to connect with the extension workers at Restorative University, and through using resources there, that he was able to make a bounce back as a result of it, right? Connecting with those extension workers, but those extension workers went further, connecting him to relief agencies through the state and the federal government, right? He's in the system now, registered as a limited producer form. So the paperwork now is even easier because he's already been registered, right?
Right.
He didn't even know nothing about registering, no, he had to be registered, yeah. So I say that to you, you have to be proactive on the front end, because everything that happens on the tail end is connected to what you did before the disaster happens, and it determines whether that's a good experience or that's a bad experience. Generally, those who come back and tell you that they had a bad experience dealing with relief agencies, that was their first go around with them, and they didn't know what the policies were, they didn't know what they had to have beforehand, and it was just a long, tedious process. He's not worried about that anymore because he now has a plan. Not only does he have a plan, these tractors that you see here are equipped. They were able to give him some new stuff to put on to keep him going. And y'all, cars fade away and they're rust, but John Deere, if you know how to fix them, they gonna build. Somebody know what I'm talking about.
And helping them.
Those of you who are former. They don't build. These tractors are still working, right? So I say that to you in the sense, in this particular instance, on those levels, initially with community, going from community to local agencies, from local agencies to state and federal agencies, working in chorus. And I want to emphasize that working in chorus, synonymously with each other, that was very important. But you have to connect all of those dots to make sure that everything is in place so that you can get the relief that you need on the front end. I want to leave you today with a couple of points, and these are very important points as it relates to the things I've conducted and were able to extrapolate from my research. Make disaster planning preparedness a priority community-wide. I want to say this. I can go back as the meteorologist just did over the last 10 years. You can name 5 major storms that we have, there are more in there, right? Y'all know when it rains in Houston, you have to go somewhere and sit down.
Yeah.
Correct.
So I say that to you in the sense that we live in geographical areas where it can happen, it will happen, right? And because it will happen, we need to be prepared in every step. Also, I would encourage everyone on an individual level and a collective level, be proactive and have a plan. Have a plan for your house, for your home. College students, have a plan. Something that he said that was very important, that I hope y'all, it didn't go over your head that you didn't miss it. Making sure that your tank does not go past a half a tank of gas. And you want me to tell you something that I did while I was at Jackson State University, while I was in school? I always made sure that and that's so I could get home. And if I had to evacuate, I could evacuate. You think about trying to evacuate and the gas light is already on. Where are you going, to the stop sign? Right? That's about as far as you're gonna get. And bumping is not gonna get you there, right? Also, be connected to local non-governmental channels of relief. I say that to you. After your immediate circle of family and community, local non-governmental relief agencies are important. Red Cross, your local church. Where's the gentleman that's over this facility here? He was talking about this is gonna be a
Yes.
Turn this into a pickup
Yes,
area. So again, knowing the person who runs the facility, that's important, right? Those non-governmental relief agencies. Also, know the leadership. Captain Tim. They're over your local disaster and relief management agencies, right? Also, connect with these officers and understand what the processes are, y'all. I can't express to you how important it is. Because if you understand the process once these disasters happen, you already got the phone number. You already, some of the people that I work, they already have the forms at their house in a manila folder. Right? Doc, can you scan this for me so that I can PDF it and send it in? Right? And last and most important, build relationships across all the aforementioned groups to create a community of care. I can't express to you how important that is. Working in tandem with each other across all these groups. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Do we have any questions on the floor for him? Chris, any questions, online?
I do not have any questions online.
Okay, we finished on time. I love that. I think you have something with a ticket or something? You got some giveaways?
So, yeah, I could please, thank you for saying it. But could you just let me? So you're reaching in and grab a ticket for me, please? I don't know. Who is it now? Oh, see, you gave it away. She didn't get a ticket? Who is me? Oh, you must have been late. I'm not sure. I haven't seen the bag. Hold on. I'll get you a ticket. Down back.
Can I get a new ticket too?
Also, while we gather this, I definitely want to point you all's attention to the back table. There is paraphernalia from the Restorative University on the black table, at the black tablecloth. And at the light blue tablecloth, there is information from the Port of Beaumont, as well as information from our neighborhood association and our ongoing, as well as the scheduling for our resiliency and health disparity identification conversation studies, So please feel free, any information you would like to get on the, neighborhood association is there as well as committees and the application for membership.
Awesome.
Ready?
No.
No? No? Come on. That's yours? Okay. Don't do like Dr. Gage and put your ticket in. Okay, you got your ticket? What's the number? 3792. Is the last four of that, 3792.
Oh, here it is.
3792. Oh, wow.
So if you could, Ms. Naomi, there's a bag at the bottom of that chair. Yes, sir. Let me quickly, sir. Congratulations. Ready? One more, we got one more. And we got two more.
Seven,
3780. 3780. Congratulations, sir. Which one you getting, Miss Ruby? This one?
No.
Yes, sir.
You got to share.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what's all up in there.
Figure it out.
Last one.
Seven, 9, 4.
3794 is the last four digits of this ticket. And you are the winner. You did. Here you go, Pat.
All right.
Also, if you would check your bags, all of our gifts in our bags were donated to the association as well. By Gates Kids, which is a store, a neighborhood store in our community located at 980, is it 980? 908 Sunset Avenue. It's next to Service Food Store, which is also the historical Service Food Store in the South End. So Ms. Ruby is the owner of Gift Kids. If you would please show her some appreciation for the gift she is giving. Some other gifts in your bag come from the Nathan's Federal Credit Union as well as the Port of Beaumont. So we're extremely excited. I definitely want to thank Dr. Margot Gage for her hard work in helping the association with this endeavor. And we're looking forward to continuing that relationship. Thank you also to Pastor Michael Cooper for our word of prayer this afternoon. And thank you to the VFW Post 1806 Spindle Top. That's this one. And we definitely also want to thank my home, the American Legion Post 33, which is also down the street, for kicking off this engagement as well. And again, thank Truth Lounge and Bistro for the meal that we had. Hope you're all full. There's still some left. Don't leave me to take that home. Okay. All right, so before we disperse, if you all could please like line up here, we're gonna do a group picture. Don't worry, you got people in front. Miss Cat, that's it. You already know that's it. Oh, oh. Booyah. You got it. Thank y'all so much. Please sign up. Don't be scared of each other. We just been here for 2 hours. Yeah, we found it. We want each other. Doc, you might want to be in the back. Yeah. On the back row. So, yeah. Everybody going down there. We need some people on this side. We need some people on this side. Young PV, we need you up here too. Young PV. Okay, okay.
She's taking the picture. Take the picture. Center.
Young PV, come.
Can you get us all in? Chris, can you move that?
I will. They probably looking at our picture. Nice catch. Nice save.
Three, two, one.
One more?
One more. 3, 2, 1.
Thank y'all so much.
Thank
I know, right? So that's their history table. Captain Officer, before you leave, can we get a group photo? And Dr. Marco, before you leave, can we get a group photo? And see what I was about to say. Noah? Yeah, Noah.
Three, two, one. Okay, got it. That's all. I got you all.
No, my birthday and I look right.
Yeah. You brought them in my building, they're now mine.
Yeah, let's do that. Yes.
Go back to one of those.
My college life, sorry, but it's a lot.
Doors back there in the room.
I'm also part of the.
Yes.
Where's Double Oaks at?
Down college?
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, no, down 105. All the way down 105. Yeah, right.
So it's outside the city.
Yeah, Keith Road on the other side of, yeah.
Oh, you don't mind? So that's the same thing in school? Well, we have a scholarship program.